Welcome to the More Sugar Podcast, and I'm your host, Amanda Calendar. Today I have a very special guest with me. I'm very excited. My first guest, and I would like to welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. What's your name?
Jack's calendar.
I got my boy with me, and I decided to interview my son. We was having a conversation in the car. Well, we wasn't having a conversation in the car. I was making a video about the preview for this episode, talking about purpose, and he had some things to say, so I thought I would get him on the mic real fast, break him in. The first time the subject of purpose that came to me was Jackson and I went to church on Sunday, and I had been thinking about purpose prior to that, but the preacher preached about, of course it was just Palm Sunday, and she preached about the donkey, Jesus using the donkey to ride into Jerusalem. And it came to me that the donkey's purpose, and that God knew his purpose. Jesus knew his purpose at some point was to die for our sins, and he still committed to that. And so my question was, how come we can't commit to our purpose? No one is asking us to die for anything. Why can't we commit to our purpose? And some people are committed to a purpose, and some people don't even know their purpose. So my question was, how do you know your purpose in this life? And so I wanted to ask my son, what do you think? Now keep in mind he's 6. So, son, what do you think your purpose is here on earth in this life?
Well, my purpose is that God gave me to you as a child, and I was in your belly to be born as a baby in life, and I'm growing up to be a young man, and I'm getting trained to be a bigger man,
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Jack's calendar. I had to I had to cut his mic a little short because he's like me in a way. He likes to talk about himself. My wife says that about me, that um I like to talk, and I just wanted to cut his mic a little short because he basically said what I wanted him to say, and he strayed a little bit into something that we're not ready to reveal yet as a family. So um, I kind of cut his mic short, but he's gonna be happy to hear his voice nonetheless. And I just put him on there to give you an idea of the mind of a 6-year-old, not the average 6-year-old, and what he sees every day, and how my responsibility as a parent is to make sure that he sees positive images and that he feels love and uplifting, and um, his foundation is strong. And I think if a person wants to even begin to kind of figure out where they're going or what their purpose is in life, your footing has to be strong. It's hard to reach for something on a wobbly ladder. So if that foundation isn't strong, it's kind of hard to reach. And I think either most people, their foundation isn't solid enough for them to recognize their purpose, or they don't trust their foundation. And sometimes the distrust of your foundation come from what you see around you and not what you feel inside of you. A lot of times I forget the lessons that my grandmother instilled in me, and I forget my foundation is strong, and my ladder feels a little wobbly beneath me, but I have to go to places like church or uh, get quiet to remember what was instilled in me, so I can revert back to staying on track to what my purpose is in life. And for some years I was really confused because I always thought purpose had to be this grandiose. I thought purpose was this grandiose idea of um I wouldn't say of yeah, I'm gonna say that I had this grandiose idea that it was like changing the world and making these broad strokes with my paintbrush over life. And if I didn't wasn't seen properly, then my purpose wasn't being fulfilled. But it wasn't until I heard the story of Jesus riding the donkey into Jerusalem, and the way my pastor broke it down, and the way every pastor seems to break it down, and it's like even the donkey can be used in the sense. I What I get from that story is that your role don't have to be big to be major. See, I talk slow because I, I want to enunciate my words. I get a little tongue tied, and I also talk slow because there's a gem here and there that sometimes gets dropped, and I want to make sure that everyone is getting everything that I'm trying to, every point, every little gem that I'm trying to convey. And so when I started to begin to realize that my purpose wasn't to make these broad strokes of my paintbrush of life, it became difficult because it's so easy to be seen, especially with this age of social media. It's easy to be seen, but it's not easy to be felt. And um when I realized that everybody is doing everything they can to be seen, but people don't want to be felt, because when you're felt, therein lies your authenticity, and people get to know the real you. And when I mean felt, I mean like your energy. Like, people should feel you before they see you. People should feel you before they see you, and that's along the lines of your energy entering a room, or just leaving your presence in the room when you leave the room. And so I realized that my purpose was to be authentic so that others can see there's joy in that there's humility in that there's freedom in that. And if you can encourage people to be themselves, then you've already changed the world, because everyone has a different being. And if we don't have five our nieces, then we have every Tom, Dick, Harry doing what Tom, Dick, and Harry is supposed to do, and not five people doing the same thing. And then everyone is living in their authentic self, and their purpose shines through, and the world changes because of that. The world becomes a better place if everyone is being their authentic selves. I read somewhere that um, there's a war for our souls. And not only did I read it in these times that we're living in, with reading the news and watching the news and all the wars and even with COVID and the world is changing so much, I guess it became harder for people to be their authentic selves. There was the whole debate where uh, I remember right when COVID first started, everyone said, "Oh my God, there's the a vaccine coming." And mostly everyone I knew said that they didn't want to get a vaccine. And then all of a sudden there became the same people I watched. I watched y'all say that you guys weren't getting a vaccine. You were the same people that got the vaccine, like first in line. And I'm not talking about people that had to get it for work. I mean people that I seen you literally switch your your ideals. Now, if you have an ideal, I can see if I'm not judging anyone if you had to take a vaccine to support your family. I understand that, but I'm judging someone who said they weren't going to do something and then just switched. Like, at what point are you true to yourself? And because so many people switched and so many people stood in their authenticity, it created this vax, anti vax era. We're kind of coming out of it, but it was really bad at one time where you were shunned for being unvaccinated or called something else for being vaccinated. And I think that that is because everything was so publicly done. And with social media, I don't know why we had to. Uh, I don't know why we had to make it a big display. Again, I think it was done to separate people and to shake people's foundation. It shake that ladder from underneath them, so they didn't remember their. After 2 years in the mask, how can you remember your authentic self? It takes discipline, it takes prayer, it takes a village to have gotten through um, these last 2 years and still be walk in your own shoes, especially if you lost someone. Because there was a time when I lost my brother um, due to complications of COVID, and there was a time when I actually didn't know who I was, and it's not in the sense of uh waking up and I don't know who I am. It's the sense of like, whose life am I living that this happened to me? Something shook my foundation and it made me question everything, especially my purpose, because I always thought that in my dreams and living my dreams with my family and accomplishing everything that I wanted to accomplish, the picture in my mind included my full family. So when such an integral piece of that picture was taken away, it shook my foundation. Like, God, maybe what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling my life should be is not what is to be. So life makes you question things, but it's your faith and your foundation that that keeps you focused. And it's so hard to do with social media because everyone is watching everyone and not feeling everyone. So we're I found myself sometimes when I'm bored just picking up, like, I'm not perfect. So when I say everyone, sometimes I'm very much so included because we need social media to run businesses. We need social media to put out content for things like podcasts and to sell things. So I'm not saying social media is all bad. I'm just saying we have to be careful how we use it or how we let it use us, because it will definitely drive us away from our purpose. And we have to guard our hearts, and we have to guard our minds, and be on the lookout, because some of us, once you do find your purpose, there's entities out there that don't want you to fulfill that purpose. You know, the darker side. I always say, if you believe in God, then you have to believe in the darker side of things, whether you want to call it Satan, or the devil, or whatever. If you can't believe in light and not think that there's some darkness somewhere trying to counteract that at all times. So if you are set on a path to 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 do something, there's always going to be the darkness that tries to overcome and knock you off the ladder altogether. See, there's a difference between you yourself in your mind not believing you can do it and forgetting your foundation, and the foundation shakes, as opposed to being totally under attack, because the shaking doesn't bother you, right? So sometimes you step on a ladder and you still reaching, no matter how much it shakes, or you still climbing the mountain, no matter how many rocks fall from beneath your feet, right? So when the darker powers realize that, wait a minute, these little distractions aren't stopping them, then I had to reach out and physically shake them. And that's where we got to hold on tighter to the light, to spirituality, to our authentic selves. We have to get anchored into something that keeps us to the core of who we are. Now, I know someone probably thought that me coming on here, that my purpose would be this. Uh, yeah, my the book, and my purpose was the book, and in the book, Sugar My Grits, I was being my authentic self. That was the most raw I know how to be. That's why I'm still having conversations from the book, because it took so much out of me to I poured so much of me. I am the book. I bled um on those pages. So that is authentically me. And so my purpose is physically somewhere. It's out there. And in that was the legacy that my wife and I created for our son, which is his publishing company. And he carries himself like a boss, like a businessman, because he understands that he's here for something greater than him. And I don't know if I would have been able to explain something like that to the average 6 year old, but I never knew what they said when they said, you know your child, and you know your child at an early age. And that's what was always scary for me, watching him as a baby. Just like I know he's special. People, whether I want to admit it or not, people know when there's things wrong with their kids, whether they want to see it or not. And either way, knowing that he's brilliant, knowing that he's special, knowing that he's not mine, that it's just my wife and our job to to mold him, to make him this amazing person. That's the scariest thing ever. Um, to do that, and to walk in authenticity, and have him watch me and answer the hard questions that he had for me honestly, from family to sexuality to school to love. He has so many questions, and Um, the only way that those can be answered is if I'm my authentic self and I keep authentic people around. I remember when we went to church, we have a family Bible, and he asked me to. He was so proud, and he said, "Mommy, I want to carry the Bible to the car." And before I could, of course, I was gonna let him, but before I could get my answer out, he said, "I've seen you and Auntie use the Bible before. That's the one that I want to carry. The one that I seen you and Auntie use." And there was a time when me and AK were doing the Have Your Own Orgasm podcast, and before we turned the mic on, if we hadn't seen each other in a long time, we would just talk, and it always led to some scriptures of her encouraging me because she knew that I would end up here. And so it just was amazing to have someone to bounce things off of. And anyways, there were times late nights when we were here just talking before we turned the mic on, and us flipping through the Bible, and him up past his bedtime, watching us. Even now, he's excited. Like, "Mommy, I want to get on the podcast." So I think that I'm gonna have him on again and just have him speak freely from his heart, as long as he's not telling our our family business that's we're not ready to reveal yet, that God is still working on. Then he sounded, when I played it back, he sounded. I just smiled inside because, and I was just thankful to God and to my wife for pouring into him, and for her for giving up so much of her life to be a mom to him. And I had no idea what he was gonna say, but when I looked at him and he was, patiently waiting for me to introduce him, and it was just an amazing feeling that I can't really explain. And that's all. He's so sure of his purpose because I was so sure. Well, I wasn't. I'm not gonna say that. Not because I was so sure of mine, but because I was willing to be authentic no matter what. It's the hardest thing, no matter what, is to stay authentic and to stay true. And um, I'm not going to talk too much because there's not too much you can say when someone's still trying to figure out what their purpose is. You can't beat something into somebody's head. And I'm not a soothsayer. I can't go around pointing my my Harry Potter wand saying, "This is your purpose, and this is your purpose, and that is your purpose." I can't do that. It's something that we all have to look inward and feel and be guided in spirit, that we know why are we here? That's me tapping my feet. When I think, I tap my feet. Why are we here? And what are we contributing to this world to make it a better place? And it might sound so vain of me to say my job is to just be myself, but it is. My job is to be, I wouldn't say be myself, my job is to be authentic, because Monday self might not look like Thursday self. But as long as I'm walking in my authenticity and I'm honest about it, then someone else will be. And then someone else will be. And then someone else will be. And that's how we change the world. If everyone just stood up in their authenticity, we would find out what God put us here to do, and we would get to it and get off of this social media just showing stuff, seeing each other and not feeling each other. And I think that we all would get along better. And I don't mean like get along, uh, like not argue. I mean get along. As humanity, we would get along in this world, because it's not getting any easier, and if you knew somebody behind their social media handle, I think it would make our journey a lot lighter. And that's just all I want to say is I always try to. I'm still so blown away by my son and the works that God's doing in our life, and I'm just so happy. And by any means, it hasn't been easy, but it's always been amazing. And I cannot take anything away from God and how amazing He's been. And I just want to say, find your purpose, and you can paint the world, but it doesn't always have to be with the big, broad brush. Good night, y'all.